This is what is known as a motor horn, or some people call it a Klaxon horn. I think Klaxon was a manufacturer. Kind of name sticks with it. Anyway, the way this operates is there's an electric motor in here, in this housing. This is all cast, die cast. I think it's bronze. And the motor drives a diaphragm in the front here. There's an eccentric that is driven by the motor, and it pushes on the diaphragm, and that vibration causes the sound that's emitted out of the horn here. Here you can see the diaphragm in the center here. A little adjustment here. I've had this thing since, I think I got this in the early 1970s. For a total, I think it was like $4. I see them on eBay for $800–900. It's insanity. Anyway, this one is made by Federal Electric. Here you can see the name tag on it. It's got a date of 1945, so obviously this was a World War II era device. I had this on a burglar alarm back when I lived in the city. Interesting, it saved my house from being burglarized, which I'll talk about later. So what I'm going to do, this is obviously in need of some maintenance. I had this in my barn for many years, and also the birds have contributed to it. So I'm going to take it apart. Motor probably needs lubrication. We'll go from there. A couple differences: I had to make a cover plate for the top here. I don't know what happened to the original. And it's fed here through a electrical system here. This one runs on 115 volts AC, and I believe this is called an H9 horn. I did find some information here. This is from a document from 1941 I found on the internet, and it talks about testing these horns, and they mention in here I think it's on the third page, right here. It mentions here that they tested these horns to failure, obviously for the Navy. It says that the subject horns failed to meet the requirements of the specification, reference blah blah blah. And they reference the H8 horn, which is 115 DC, and the H9 horn, which is 115 AC. Now this one I have is Federal Electric. I do have another one of these, which is Benjamin Electric, which is the DC. So obviously that's an H8 horn, and this one is an H9 horn as far as I can tell. So I'm going to disassemble this, and we'll open it up and see how it looks. It does operate, but I can't remember the last time I did any maintenance on this thing. It's been many decades, so that will be the subject of this video, so stand by. Okay, the major casting in the back here, it's open, and then this front piece, which is stamped metal, is bolted with a number of screws here to the actual frame. And of course, being a naval object, this was well made. These are brass screws, it looks like. There's 8 screws holding this front plate on. So I'll move ahead here and take the plate off and show you that part. One more screw, and then this front plate should come off. And it does. And here's the diaphragm. Now, back in the 70s, I had an original diaphragm that cracked. So this isn't the original diaphragm. In fact, it's not the correct metal. They use a spring steel. This is just a regular metal plate here. Well, while I have this off, here you can see the motor end here. This spins, and there's an eccentric on the end. And as that spins, actually it would go this way. And as that spins, it comes up against what they call an anvil, I believe it is called. And that pushes this in and out, and that vibrates this disc, and that's what makes the noise. Maybe I should leave that on there. I think I will for now. Anyway, here's the end of the motor. So now I'm going to remove these 6 screws, which will expose the inside here. One more screw on this cap here, and we should be inside. And here we are. On the top you can see the terminals here for the 120 AC. Now this motor uses, and I'm going to remove it, uses a different kind of lubrication. There are these cups on here, which I can see when I get the motor out. They have a wick inside, and then they go against a bearing inside the motor housing here. And I'm not sure what type of lubricant they use. I need to investigate that. So anyway, I'm going to remove the motor, which it looks like, if I remember right, these 2 screws come out, and then the motor should pull out. It's in there good. Guess I need to give it a little persuasion, I think. There we go. Well, no, I'm going to have to remove this plate to get the motor out. Don't want to lose any of the hardware. All this wonderful World War II hardware still amazes me. The machining and quality of the stuff back then. Anyway, here's the cast housing here. This is, I think it's bronze or brass, I'm not sure. In the back you can see there's a screw. This is to adjust the tension on the back of the motor, which controls the shaft here. Is you push on this back shaft here, it moves the, you can see right here, it moves the end, it moves the rotor closer to the disc. So if I loosen that screw on the back, I can bring this all the way to the back, and the motor will spin without making contact on the back of the diaphragm here. Here's the motor, and you can see they've got a, I don't know if this is a centered metal bearing on here of some type. I'm going to take off the oil cups here. Maybe an ex-Navy guy that worked on these things, if they're still around, can give me some information on these. Now here's a wick that goes in here, and it touches the shaft of the motor. I believe this might use grease, I'm not sure. If I remember right, back in the 70s, when I first got this, I used oil, which may be the wrong type of lubricant. And this is hardened. Probably should be replaced. Anyway, the spring tension, it pushes on this wick, which pushes it up against the shaft of the motor. You can actually see the motor shaft in there. Commutator. Now the commutator could probably be cleaned up. Still looks in pretty good shape. Brushes look good. I'm sure there's not a lot of time on these. Anyway, what I think I'll do is I'll clean these wicks, I'll soak them get the old lubricant out of there. And then I might fill this with super lube. It's like a synthetic grease. And since this is mounted in that direction with the cups facing up, I'm assuming they didn't use oil. If you fill this with oil, that would all just run in. I think in the past what I did, I just soaked the wick in oil, but that's probably an improper way to do it here. Maybe someone can comment on this type of bearing. Here's a look at the actual bearing in the back. Some type of a bronze bearing. You can see the end of the shaft is turning. And here you can look into the actual shaft of the motor. You can see the shiny part of the motor shaft there. That goes into this bearing here. So anyway, the next step will be to check the motor out, make sure that's running okay, and then I'm going to figure out how I'm going to lubricate these things. So anyway, stand by for the next step. What I'm going to try to do now is degunk some of this felt here. I don't want to destroy them, although if I do, this should be replaceable. You can see here I'm using some shotgun cleaner. I use this on guns. It works pretty good. It cleans old grease and things like that. So I'm gonna, and you can see as I soak it, this is a clear liquid, it's turning it brown, so it is dissolving some of the stuff, and I can feel it. It's getting a little more pliable. So I'm gonna let these soak in this solution for a bit, and then I will wring them out before I reinstall them using this. This stuff's called super lube. It's a synthetic grease. I use this on antenna rotators. It's really good stuff. So I'm going to try that. These cups that the wicks are in are mounted vertical on the motor. So evidently how this works is the motor spins, it heats up, and that forces the lubrication down against the motor shaft. So I'm going to go that way here. I don't want to use any kind of oil because I'm afraid it'll run in and damage the motor. Boy, this is nice construction here. Like I say, this is the H9, which is AC operated. The H8 was DC. My Benjamin Electric DC unit, I put a full-wave bridge rectifier in it so I could run it off of AC. That one is 115 volts also. So evidently the ships had both DC and AC power. So they had the two separate units. Here you can see the shotgun cleaner's cleaning these things up. It's dissolving a lot of that old hardened grease on there. So I'm going to finish that and then I'll be back. Before I put the grease caps on, I took a small amount of the super lube on a Q-tip and I just put it down against the shaft of the motor here, and I made sure that there's going to be some lubrication on there. I've hooked up some leads here, and I'm just going to run the motor and make sure everything's alright. Here you can see how that device here, as it spins, that pushes up against the diaphragm. Okay, so with that completed, I'm going to finish up with those felt oil wicks, and then I will reassemble the motor and test it, and we'll go from there. So stand by. I reinstalled the grease cups on each end of the motor. Motor's running good. So I'm going to put it back in the housing here and clean it out. Now before I do that, if you notice here on the back, there's a screw with a nut on it, and inside here, you can see in the back, the end of that screw protrudes into the housing, and that pushes up against the end of the shaft here. So as you can see here, I can pull this. I can adjust the position of that shaft. So in other words, I can control the movement of that eccentric here in and out till it makes contact with the diaphragm. But what I'm going to do, before I go any farther, I'm going to loosen this. I'm going to put a little bit of this super lube on the end of that. I think I'll put it on the end of the motor here so it makes contact, since that will spin. But anyway, I am going to back out I'm going to back that out so that the eccentric is not going to make contact. So I can run it, and to adjust this, what I'll do, I'll start the motor and then I'll slowly work this screw in, pushing against the back of the motor. That will push the motor forward until it contacts, and then you get the big sound. So anyway, I will do that next. I have the motor back in, it's hooked up. Before I put the cone and the diaphragm on, I'm just going to give it one more quick test to make sure everything's okay. And it is. So I will mount the horn with 8 screws, and then I will be back and we'll test it. And it's loud. Units back together. Going to test it again. Motor's running good. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to advance this bolt inside until that shaft of the motor contacts it and pushes it up against the diaphragm. I'm going to use these. Now this is going to be loud, so if you got headphones on, well, you've been warned. Anyway, here we go. Motor's running. Okay, now I can tighten this jam nut, and we'll give it a test again. Stand by. It works. So anyway, that's it for the Federal Electric motor horn from 1945. And next time you watch a war movie, you might hear one of these. Quick story. This thing saved my house from being burglarized. I was gone, came home one day, my back door was, the screen door was open, and the front, the door, the big door, was actually closed, but I noticed it was cracked. And what had evidently happened is somebody came, opened my screen door, and started kicking in the inside door, but when they kicked it, they broke the contact on a magnetic switch at the bottom of the door. And this horn and a big siren went off, and luckily they didn't get in the house. And when I came home, my neighbor, she told me she saw 3 young teens jumping over the fence. So they must have had decided they didn't want to go in the house. But anyway, so I don't worry about that now. I no longer live in a high fraud, high violent, high crime area, so probably not necessary. But anyway, that's the story. So I hope you enjoyed this one. If you see one of these, don't go on eBay and pay $100. This was like $4. So don't get ripped off. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.